There's an idea I like to refer to as mutable horror concepts. This refers to horror concepts that start as a single thing, usually an image or story, that is taken by the community and expanded, evolved, and developed into a whole world. So think things like Slenderman, which started as two images on something awful and was communally developed into the massive lore it possesses today, particularly by the big three Slenderman series. Or SCP, which by nature is a communal story project that evolved from a pretty simple concept. The Backrooms can be called one of these mutable concepts, though it didn't start out that way. But whilst I think this communal development has been exceptionally beneficial to other online horror ideas, today on the Panopticon Theatre I'll be explaining why I think it actually ruined the concept of the Backrooms. The Backrooms emerged from an Anon post in a 4chan thread in 2019. A user posted this image of an empty, very yellow office building, and another replied with this: "If you're not careful and no clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, and the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you." From this, other users developed on the concept, and the Backrooms was born, as an endless maze of yellow walls, humming tube lights, and moist carpets. This concept caught on to the wider internet, popularizing the idea of liminal spaces as a whole, which is used to describe spaces of transition, in between spaces with a sense of odd nostalgia or unease to them. This peculiar idea quickly gained traction, becoming a viral sensation and inspiring a community of creators and enthusiasts. This opened up a broader conversation about liminal spaces, encouraging people to explore and document the real-world locations that fit this description. It led to an influx of social media posts, blog articles, and forums dedicated to showcasing and discussing liminal spaces. People shared their own experiences and encounters with these spaces, using the Backrooms as a reference point for the feelings of nostalgia, melancholy, and eeriness that they evoked. Then with this, the Backrooms started to change. Levels appeared, new and different accessible areas in the Backrooms, usually also themed to this idea of liminal spaces. There were now levels resembling empty hotels with eerie, dimly lit hallways and abandoned guest rooms. Other levels resembled maintenance tunnels filled with rusty pipes and labyrinthine passages that seemed to go on forever. Warehouses filled with towering stacks of crates and mysterious cargo also became a part of this ever-expanding underworld. Some levels contained valuable items like the fabled curative almond water, a substance rumored to heal injuries and provide sustenance for those who found it. Others held cryptic puzzles and enigmatic artifacts that tempted explorers to unlock their secrets. And no longer was the idea of another being there just a vague threat prickling up the back of your neck, but now was many established entities with documented habitats and behaviors and appearances. Other people were in there too with you somewhere. They formed makeshift camps, sharing resources and information, or sometimes they clashed in desperate battles for the limited supplies and safe havens the Backrooms had to offer. The once monotonous and never-ending yellow walls were now interspersed with new features and environments. Suddenly, the Backrooms was a hell of a lot more populated. Have you ever heard the phrase, "the things you don't see are scarier than the ones you do"? Or perhaps in another form, "nothing is scarier." Some of the best and most impactful horror media are the ones where we don't see exactly what the form of the danger is. It Follows, The Blair Witch Project, the first halves of The Descent, and Jaws. It's why so many people are afraid of the dark, whether they admit so or not. It's not the fear of the dark itself, usually. It's the fear of not knowing what could be in there. There's just something about the ambiguity of it. The human imagination is incredibly unendingly powerful, and when left to its own devices and its own assumptions, it fills in the gaps and darkness with our own fear, projects what scares us most onto that space. By allowing audiences to participate actively in the creation of their own fears, these horror stories become more immersive and emotionally resonant. The darkness and the unknown become canvases on which the viewer's deepest fears are painted, creating an experience that's not only terrifying, but also deeply personal and haunting. It also means that each viewer can take from a particular concept the thing that resonates with them the most, creating a more dynamic and unique take on each piece of media. But when a monster is actually placed in front of us and we see what it is, we're suddenly a lot less afraid. We can start rationing out logic and unconsciously start reasoning with the situation and how we might deal with it. This doesn't just go for monsters either. It applies to anything in horror or suspense-based media, be it environments or even concepts. One of the defining characteristics of the early Backrooms concept was that it was a place that defied explanation, where the boundaries between reality and the surreal blurred. This indistinctness allowed people to project their own fears and anxieties onto the concept, making it deeply personal and haunting. The lack of concrete details about what the Backrooms were or why they existed added to their mystique, encouraging speculation and creativity. Another crucial aspect was the vacancy of the backrooms. It was a world devoid of life and activity, save for the occasional eerie sound or distant hum of fluorescent light. This emptiness created a sense of isolation and desolation that contributed to the overall atmosphere of unease and dread. The design also evoked a feeling of familiarity, as if the spaces within it were eerily reminiscent of places from one's past, yet not quite right. This created a sense of displacement and unease, as if you've entered a distorted version of your own memories. As the backrooms exploded in popularity, it faced the challenge of maintaining its initial appeal while accommodating a broader audience and a growing creative community. The backrooms began to adopt a more structured and formulaic approach, particularly with the development of several backrooms-focused games. Video game levels often have well-defined objectives, predictable gameplay mechanics, and a clear sense of direction. While these can be enjoyable in their own right, they tend to provide a more guided and less ambiguous experience compared to the original concept of the backrooms. As the backrooms expanded, the factors that made it so compelling, that vagueness and haunting emptiness, that unsettling not quite nostalgia, were replaced with the equivalent depth of a mid-Roblox horror map. The sense of wandering through an undefined and unsettling space gave way to a more linear and goal-oriented experience, which, while entertaining to some, may have lost some of the unique qualities that had initially drawn people to the concept. In essence, the evolution of the backrooms concept highlights the challenge of balancing creativity and vision in online communities. While it's natural for ideas to evolve and adapt, there can be a delicate balance between preserving the essence of what made a concept compelling and catering to a wider audience. Of course, it would be hard to make a backrooms game without adding some sort of objective or win condition, and it wouldn't be super easy after a certain point to create more in regards to the backrooms concept without adding new elements. But does everything need to be expanded? Does everything need to become an indie game with enemies and secrets and varied maps? Sometimes things just work and deliver better in the form they started in, and I personally think that's the case when it comes to the backrooms. Many concepts gain popularity for their simplicity and the unique feelings they evoke, and sometimes expanding upon them can dilute their original appeal. Many creators are drawn to the challenge of adapting a concept into an interactive experience, and games often provide a structured framework that can make the concept more accessible to a wider audience. This approach can introduce new layers of engagement and enjoyment for players who want more than just a passive experience. However, it's equally important to recognize that not every concept benefits from this kind of expansion. Some ideas like the backrooms thrive on their inherent ambiguity, the lack of clear objectives, and the sense of uncharted territory. These qualities are what initially drew people to the concept, and they may be lost or diminished when attempting to create a structured game around it. Not every concept needs to be expanded or gamified to be meaningful or enjoyable. Some concepts are best appreciated as they are, allowing individuals to interpret and experience them in their own unique ways. The backrooms, with its eerie, minimalist, and mysterious nature, is a prime example of a concept that, for me, thrives on its simplicity and open-endedness. Some ideas are most powerful when they exist as a blank canvas upon which individuals can project their own experiences, fears, and interpretations. The original conceit of the backrooms thrived on this inherent ambiguity, giving you the freedom to construct your own unique narrative and emotional experience within its framework. Ultimately, the decision to expand or preserve a concept like the backrooms should be guided by the creator's intentions and the desires of the audience. While some may find enjoyment in a gamified adaptation that adds structure and interactive elements, others like myself may prefer to keep the concept in its original form, savouring the sense of ambiguity and exploration it offers. In the realm of creativity, there's room for both approaches, expansion and preservation. The key is to strike a balance between honouring the essence of the original concept and exploring new avenues of creativity that respect the spirit of what made it intriguing in the first place. And to me, the expansion of the backrooms does not achieve that balance. Instead, it's kind of drained the things that, to me, initially made the backrooms concept compelling. The backrooms concept serves as an interesting view into the world of internet culture and creativity. While the allure of adapting a concept into a structured game or expanding it to engage a wider audience is evident, it is equally crucial to acknowledge that not every idea benefits from such transformation. The new backrooms will probably have some level more longevity than the original concept may have had, seeing as it can now be adapted in more ways and in a more meme format, but to me, this is at the loss of its original draw. It's kind of a shame to me. What do you think? Do you agree, or do you think conceptual adaptation is always beneficial? Either way, for better or worse, Backrooms has indeed changed. Thanks for watching today's Panopticon Theatre performance. What do you think? Did I miss anything? What do you want me to talk about next? Make sure to sub and join the audience if you want to see more.